So we're here live with another SaaS founder interview, and I'm with Jake Vacovec from FlyCode. Hi, Jake. Thanks for joining us. Do you want to give us a little bit of an intro about yourself and tell us about FlyCode, what it is and what it does?
Thanks, Peter. It's good to be here. My name is Jake Vacovec. I'm based out of New York. I've got two other co-founders who are in Tel Aviv. We're a team of 9. And what we're building is a platform to help streamline the product delivery workflow for companies that are building web applications or mobile applications. What we really do is bridge the gap, the technical gap between your engineers and your non-technical teams to give those non-technical teams more superpowers to make changes to the front end of the product, like copy changes or images that traditionally fall on the plate of your software engineering team.
Okay, so it gives them a little more hands-on ability to make changes directly in the product and frees up some of that developer time for requesting changes and that might go back and forth. Is that a good way to describe it?
Yeah, I would say that now more than ever, your development team, the talent out there is amazing, but it's not increasing at the same rate that the demand for that talent is. And you really want to protect your development team on core infrastructure, revenue generating development work. And today there's just a myriad of smaller changes that are required that we think can be offloaded from your engineering team and be owned by your non-technical or product management teams.
I love it. Jake, how did you meet your co-founders, and how did you together come up with with this value proposition, this idea for your platform, for FlyCode?
Yeah, so before FlyCode, I spent about 7 years at a Israeli fintech, and actually joined when there were about 10 people. I was still in university, stayed on, and eventually was running product for them. I guess I don't know if I should be called a millennial anymore, having been at one company for basically my entire career. But the network that I was able to get in Israel was really amazing from that. So one of my co-founders was also on the product team with me. And then our third co-founder, who's our CTO, was the younger brother of another product manager there. So there was this kind of inherent trust, many years under our belt, either directly or indirectly, that brought us together. Being in a fintech, there's so much oversight. You want to move quickly, but you have bank partners, you have internal compliance officers, third-party auditors, and the product team just felt like we were moving very slow on certain things. And the development team, from a product perspective, needs a clear roadmap with, epics that they can work on and close. And so when small things that required certain levels of approval or kind of async collaboration back and forth on changes, it just slowed things down. And so we wanted to find a better way to support this async collaboration and incorporate, product managers, marketers, others in the product delivery workflow, but somehow figure out a way to do this that keeps the ownership with engineering, right? The big learning there is your engineering team wants to protect their work, but also their code. And so sometimes tools that give too much power can break the code, and that's like your worst nightmare, right? So for us, figuring out the balance there was really critical from the beginning.
Yeah, it sounds like a complex challenge there, just navigating that and getting the right balance. Yeah, it's fascinating to see your background and how you guys developed this concept and solving a challenge that you saw yourselves. We were talking about a challenge that you've encountered with FlyCode, the business, whereby you are able to onboard your customers and have them understand easily how to adopt the product. How have you navigated that challenge as you've been building the business? And what kind of changes did you introduce, and what kind of impact has that had FlyCode?
Yeah, so I think it goes back to making sure that the developer feels comfortable with the introduction of a new tool to their stack. And so the unique way that we went to market is directly via the code. So we have an application that a developer can install, select the repos that they want to give us access to, and we're automatically scanning your code to understand the infrastructure of both structured and unstructured code to make aspects of it editable, primarily things like product copy, translation images, and many more to come. What we learned very quickly is that even though this experience is fully self-service, you still need to provide direction to the user that's onboarding. Okay, what should I connect? Did I connect the right thing? And within that, we had some assumptions saying they shouldn't know what to do there, but we started to see things that were connected that were kind of irrelevant to what product and service we were providing. So what we did was make it very clear during the onboarding, this is what we want you to connect. Here's an example repo of ours that you can connect if you want to see. And then, one step further, we provided a real-time, analysis of what they connected to say, we found 1,000 strings, 200 SVGs and images, and here is your tech stack. And what the before and after there was is that our success rate from the funnel, what we measured was getting to that point of connection. The quality of the connections skyrocketed. I mean, we saw maybe it's upwards of 75% were resulting in quality connections from before, which maybe was the 40-50%.
So would this be an obstacle that previously your new users were uncertain of how to do it, and was that a cause of drop off or kind of churn at that early stage of user acquisition?
I think that's wonderful about the developer ecosystem. So developers are our primary buyer. The users ultimately are like the product managers, and they're going to be developers distributing internally. And the amazing part is in the ecosystem, developers love to test new tools. And so when you get them to test and you make it easy for them to do that, you're naturally going to get some churn or some that are testing for the future. But often what they're testing is on things that are personal repos before they bring it into their organization. So I think what it allowed us to do was to understand better that the person who's coming in is actually testing it for a broader organization, even though they signed up for a Gmail, and that was based off of the connection. So the learnings and the prioritization of those that signed up became much stronger in effect of encouraging the customer to connect something that gives them the experience of being able to test end to end. Otherwise they leave, right? They're like, I connected something, not sure if it was the right thing, and wasn't fully able to test it. So the funnel is some of the past we lost, right? Just it happens, we'll try to recover, but it's really the go forward plan where we're seeing the most success.
Yeah, it's amazing that you've got these kind of insights through that process, and just the difference of giving them an example or the ability to test something outside of their organization, because I imagine that there's two things going on. One, they want to test and see what this tool is like and what it does. And assess basically if it could work for them, and the other thing is perhaps they feel that there's an element of risk or concern to just connect directly with their organization's repo. Perhaps they have some kind of apprehension around doing that, so this gives them ability to just play and mess around and assess the product before going to the next step. So I imagine after they test it, then they go and they'll take it to their team or stakeholders and say, hey, we're thinking about using this tool. Is that the kind of typical adoption process in the early stages?
It's a mix, to be honest. I think there's some that have, immediate need, and because it's self-service, they can connect their own org. And, we're not making any infrastructure changes or requiring any deep integration, which, is very unique in our space and for our product. We're really doing all of the heavy lifting automatically. And so with that, developers feel more comfortable to be able to test on their own, organizations or repo, because they can quickly take it away if they don't need it. And so from that sense, it's like a companion application that is, low code for your code, right? Companies that have, that are our target actually have, significant code bases. They may have multiple applications. It could be, mono repos, or they're using more of a microservice infrastructure. And that's the area where we're, the strongest. So if you're somebody who doesn't have a development team, or a big one, or any at all, there's very, good tools out there to say, build an application from scratch, like a bubble, for example. We're not going to do that for you. What we're going to do is give you, tools and utilities on top of an existing code base that is very developer friendly, because it works within kind of this Git-based workflow. So for your question, we see a mix, right? Some want to test on their own. Others, gladly say, hey, I'll leverage their own repo. Maybe I'm not senior enough or feel comfortable enough to connect my full organization.
Yeah, and I've been seeing this challenge with some of the no-code platforms, whereby it seems that currently they're great for building MVPs, but I've seen a lot of SaaS, early stage SaaS companies, when they need to take that MVP a little further and the product gets a little more complex and sophisticated, it's usually the case that the teams are struggling to get the customization and the speed of development with no code platforms. So it seems that what you're augmenting on top of an already established code base, and it seems that gives kind of more flexibility and efficiency, and a bit more of ability for other kind of members outside of the dev team to contribute. So it seems like there's a real space for that specifically for what you're doing, because I've observed that challenge with the no-code platforms a few times and heard founders talking about it. Jake, you're just joining Y-Combinator, is that right? Yeah. How long have you been on the program?
Yeah, so we were thrilled to be accepted into the program. Having a working product, having customers, and paying customers, it puts us in a very opportunistic position within the Y-Combinator program, which just kicked off last week. And they had a little retreat, which was more of the calm before the storm, which is the next 3 months of just being laser focused on growing the business. And it's a smaller batch this year, which is great. So there's more one-on-one time with the batch mates and the partners. So we'll run for 3 months. Monday was the official kickoff, when I guess you could say the storm begins. But for us, it's bringing us all back to the principles of the business, which right now in the market, I think is more important than ever for any founder, where there was a bit of a wave of huge amounts of funding going into new startups, growth stage, and now with the economy where it's at, I think the market's saying, okay, look, what's your plan on revenue? How are you growing with the right type of users? Or it's more in your go to market in your business model. So Y-Combinator is super focused on that, really holding us to that line. And it's wonderful to have kind of that coaching and mentorship to keep you in line.
Fantastic.